please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. I think this is a record attendance for us recently. So welcome everybody. For those people at home, we do have a number of people in the audience. So, and for those visiting us, this is a hybrid meeting, so we tend to have to, it's a little, sometimes we have to go back and forth and things like that for people that are attending remotely.
I don't think I've seen this many people. This is
Well, that's what I say. Yes.
kind of fun.
I know, we're getting back to normal, which is always a good thing, so we're excited about that. So with that, real quickly, moving on to the approval of the minutes for March 8th, 2022 and March 17th, 2022 special meeting.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any amendments or changes to the minutes? No? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and any abstentions? Trying to think, I think I would abstain from March 17th. So I'm abstaining from March 17th. Okay. Next item on the agenda is first Selectmen's update. And with that, I'll just give a real quick overview. The Board of Finance last week voted on a budget to move forward to a public hearing. Yep, they're right there as well. And the budget totaled approximately $91 million. And that will be the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. So that fiscal year starts July 1st. The public hearing is scheduled for April 25th. And that will probably be a hybrid public meeting, but more details will be available on the website. So we encourage people to go if they have questions about the budget, and the Board of Finance will then listen to public comment. And then they will make a decision to move the budget after that to referendum. And the referendum will be held Tuesday, May 17th. And you can vote in person and you can vote by absentee ballot. So please check the town clerk's website if you want to vote absentee ballot for the budget referendum. I'm not sure when that information will be available, the applications and all that, but there's an opportunity to vote absentee for that budget referendum. The other good news is we got last week, although nothing is firm until they have a meeting later this week, but that the town is being awarded $4 million from the State Bonding Commission for the Academy project, which is a huge win for us. That will reduce the need from $16 million of bonding down by $4 million. So we're excited about that. That's one of many funding opportunities that we hope to pursue. But that really puts a big dent in it, and we're excited that we received that. And we're thankful to our Senator Cohen and Representative Parker and to the governor for supporting that project and seeing the value of that for the town of Madison and for the general public. So I'm excited about that. The other thing we're doing is we're spending a lot of time moving forward on different things that we have to do after the referendums. And I did put like a little summary, but I think I'm going to save this for later in our meeting where we can talk through, because a lot of this is more mechanics of things that the board is going to need to do, as well as the building committees and things like that. We're kind of just ramping up all those processes. So I'll save this slide for later, but just to say that we're getting committees organized. We're working on different things we have to do to close on the sale of Island Avenue, as well as the close on the purchase of the new property for the school. So that's all to come. And so with that, I will stop my share and turn it over to board members for liaison reports and selectmen comments.
Well, I can start. Madison Youth and Family, we met on the 8th of March. I guess one big thing of note is students did a report, and obviously they were very excited about not wearing masks in the high school anymore, so that was a big deal. June 14th is graduation. There is a dodgeball tournament coming back this year for those that are dodgeball players. I think you should seriously get a team together and support the high school. They were really excited about the 30-minute break between exams where therapy dogs came, which was pretty encouraging. They talked a lot about that, actually. There were two, I guess, assemblies or sort of...
It is. Where was it hiding? It's right there.
So there was an assembly called Jane Doe No More, which was regarding victims of sexual assault. So that was very well received. And then the winter captains of the sports teams actually were spoken to and are trying to speak with them, their teams, about speaking out about sexual assault. So some really great topics that are in conjunction with Madison Youth and Family that are coming out. And then my last update is Bruce and I are going to be spending a lot of time together over this next week or so, interviewing many, many candidates who raised their hand for the Ethics Commission. So we're excited about that. I think we have 13 or something like that at least. So that will take us a fair amount of time and a half hour a pop. So we're really looking forward to getting that commission going. That's it.
Okay, great.
I have a rather longish update from our ad hoc affordable housing committee. I wanted to quickly bring you up to date as to where they've been. I urge you to, in fact, that we, the selectmen, are going to be getting busy with this ourselves over the next month. Just to remind you, the state of Connecticut has required every town to prepare an affordable housing plan. And that housing plan is due to be submitted to the state June 1st. The Board of Selectmen here created an ad hoc affordable housing committee. They've been meeting regularly on a bi-weekly basis, and they've been working in coordination with our regional planning agency, which is called the SCROG, the South Central Connecticut Regional Organization of Government. And all of the towns within the district, but most of the towns in the district, are coordinating their study of affordable housing plans through the COG. And the COG has provided some consulting to each of the towns. Each of the towns will be getting their own unique report, but it's being done under the overall coordination of the regional planning agency. In addition, Madison has hired its own consultants to help us specifically focus on Madison. So the ad hoc committee has been gathering all kinds of information, including demographic data, regulatory analysis, existing condition reports, and also conducted 2 surveys of Madison residents. The first survey attracted about 1,000 responses. The second survey, about 800 responses. In addition, the committee has held an informational workshop on Zoom back in December. So, going forward now, we, the selectmen, are going to begin to get involved. The committee will be finalizing its report that they're going to send to us, called the draft plan, and that will be happening about a week. On their calendars already, they have scheduled a meeting, a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the zoning commission. It should be on your calendar for April 13th at 7 p.m. And that's a chance for us to meet with the Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as the ad hoc affordable housing. After that point, it will be up to us, the selectmen, as to whether or not we wish to hold either a formal public hearing, which would require 35 days advance notice, or the alternate is to hold one or more public information sessions, which can be scheduled with very short notice, be a chance for us to educate the public as to what's in the plan, and listen to the public as to what they think about what's in the plan. Sometime towards the end of May, then, we, the selectmen, are going to have to approve the plan. Whether we do it at our formal meeting on May 23rd, or whether Peggy would choose to schedule a special meeting sometime today, we need to get all of that accomplished prior to the first. I'll stop there.
Yep. So it's a lot to take in, unfortunately. There's a hard deadline because of the state some reason they had a special notice about the queue. And the one with 5 days, but this specific plan requires a 35-day notice for a public hearing, which is kind of gives us not a lot of time to react necessarily either. So, but I think we can make those deadlines and just want to make the public understand that things don't just stop once the plan is kind of I guess endorsed by board of selectmen, but then it moves on to other cases.
Okay, so on the liaison side, I just want to take this opportunity to remind everybody who flies a flag in Madison that one of the primary fundraising mechanisms for the Ambulance Association is the sale of flags. These are American-made flags. They're probably sourced from the same place that you're already buying them. You don't pay a premium for it, but the Ambulance Association gets a special deal, and so they get to put a little of that money in their pockets. If you go to MadisonCTEMS.org, you will see on their landing page a link and a phone number to call to get flags. With the budget season behind us, more or less, fingers crossed on the referendum, I would like to take this opportunity to invite the board to start thinking about a new process for the next budget cycle. One where we as a board get involved earlier in the process, in the global discussion about setting goals and priorities that the departments can then take back and craft their own budgets from, and they do it with some indication from us about what our expectations are, of course, from Peggy's office as well. For anybody who follows the town budget process, it tends to feel back-end loaded and rushed, and I think that we're going to be doomed for that cycle unless we take deliberate steps to break out of it. And this is a good year to do it because for us, there's nothing going on. So we've got time. Well, I mean, there's no elections.
That was a loaded statement.
There's no elections. So this is a year where we can devote a lot of focus in the first quarter of the fiscal year to doing that. So there's that, and then along the same vein, now that all of that work of budgeting is behind us, we now have bandwidth to turn our focus back to some of the other issues that were cropping up last summer. We have as an unresolved issue the floodplain ordinance, and I think we need to pick up that conversation again in earnest and bring it to resolution. I think we're pretty close, but we just need to do it. And the same with the issue of the short-term rental. This is a topic that's come up a couple of times in your updates, Peggy, but I think these two items need to float up to the top of our agenda pretty quickly so that we can to that. So there's that. And then lastly, cleanup day is fast approaching. That's in April every year, and we get tremendous turnout. With COVID, maybe a little bit less, but still good turnout. This year, I was thinking maybe it would be nice if we could do some sort of a thank you lunch that day, either with a food truck south, a food truck north, or pizzas, something. To make it a little bit friendlier and to say thank you from the community for people coming out.
What is the date for it?
I do not know the exact date.
April 30th. I think we're going to do next meeting, but not a proclamation. But I think it's good. Around it, we always get good participation, but there's not that where everybody gets to kind of meet each other and speak all the different.
Yeah.
If I could stop for just a second, get some thanks that there's more audio, so I'm just gonna test something real quick. Can you do a test now real quick?
Sure. Testing.
It looks better on my end.
Does that seem better?
Is
Now there's like a static background.
Yeah, it's the blower. We have this lovely blower in the room,
yeah, that might be.
which is right above the camera.
So, it's static. So I'm not sure which end you want to go with. Or you could speak up louder and I could turn it back to what it was.
Yep, okay,
I'll put it
speak
back.
up louder. And I think we do need to work a little bit more on the microphones. We thought we tried to use the one we already had, but I think we need to find another kind of system. Because the system is also feeds from the screen, also. And we'll have to work on it. Any other, Maureen, do you have any?
Yeah,
liaison?
Yes, I do. I was having trouble with my video, so I don't want to touch too many things. Anyway, first of all, I want to say that was such great news about the $4 million for Academy, and the closer we can get, lower we can get that bond money that we have to bond down. And I was thinking Salt Meadow was 9 million, the library was 9 million. It would be great to be able to get close to 9 million with some little more effort. And this was a great first start. But also part of that bond was also money for American Legion Hall, which I was so delighted to see. I know we had given them some money through the American Rescue Plan, but not for the building. And they had raised all the money for outside, and now they're able to do the inside thanks to this grant, which is awesome. They're such a nice part of our community. I don't think people realize it. I know they've done a lot over the years. Do you know during COVID, when we couldn't get in the schools, that's where the orchestra was practicing, was in American Legion Hall. That's how much they've been involved with our with the community from the time they were built. Anyway, I wanted to also congratulate everyone involved with the beach access scare we had this year in Hartford, opening up beach access to everybody, which would have been a nightmare. I know Peggy wrote a testimony. I think State Rep Parker wrote testimony. Al went up and had a lively conversation. But there was a real pushback from the suburbs. They're going to do a study. It'll be back, but for this year, we can breathe a sigh of relief. Thanks to Austin, he filled me in a lot of the stuff that's going on with the seniors. You can feel the difference at the senior center. It's just getting more active and alive, which is great. ARP is doing tax prep there, and until April 12th, seniors can go and get free help. The senior center, as I said, is getting more and more active. They're starting a men's fitness program there. You can sign up for Thursday morning bocce at the senior center, which is really lively. I guess they have teams or something, but it's a lot of fun. And it was nice to see that Madison Youth Board is Youth and Services is offering tech support for our seniors. And so I thought all that was good information. And I've got a question. With the Board of, and I'm sorry I don't know the answer to this. The Board of Finance, when they came out with their budgets, what they're proposing, did they cut anything from our budget, from the town side?
No, they actually increased, added back a few things in terms of the budget requests. So they kind of modified some of the budget requests, but they did not cut anything out of the budget.
So the bottom line is the same, basically.
They added a couple things in though.
Yeah, but but then the other big change, I know. The other big change was they added, you know how we had added additional, I think $250,000 in capital, just to have that, that savings account, so to speak, for future bonding issues. They actually increased that to $750,000. So that, you will see a big change in the bottom line because you've got a big bump in the capital account. That's the most significant change. The other stuff is very minor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
I think with that, then we are ready to move on to citizens' comments. So we have some people in the room, I guess, want to make some statements. Then we'll go to any ad hoc comments.
Yes, Linda Marino, I live at
You wouldn't stand up just because obviously it's hard to hear, it sounds like for people at home, so.
Linda Marino from 145 Middle Beach Road. I'm here tonight with several other residents of Madison. We have tremendous concern about the short-term rentals in the town of Madison. They are imposing a huge burden on the permanent residents of this town. They're changing the character of our neighborhoods, and it's because of the advent of platforms like the Airbnb and vacation rental by owners, where we have groups of people coming in on a weekly basis, filling up these houses, parking cars all over the place, having parties, and it's just uncontrolled, unregulated. I don't even think it's permitted in the town of Madison's regulations, but we clearly need an ordinance to ban this because we are completely threatening the character of our town if we permit this to continue happening in the trajectory that it's been happening. There are several others of us here tonight who can speak of personal experiences and how they are very, very concerned about how this trend is affecting all of us and the way it has changed all of our sense of community in the town of Madison. And so we would like this issue. We had a petition that was sent to the Board of Selectmen in September. We haven't really heard anything since that. It's now 6 months later. We would, at a minimum, like this issue to be put on the agenda for the next Board of Selectmen meeting.
Just to correct, I mean, we usually don't get back and forth, but we did have a meeting on it in the fall, early or late fall, and decided to table it until more research could be conducted by the town planner. And we had laid out a number of things for her to look into, and I think it's just been a priority setting issue. But as Bruce commented, there's two things that we kind of have to resurrect now that we've gotten past the referendums, which absorb a lot of time and effort on the town's behalf, and focus on some of those issues. Any other public comment?
Well,
Name and address.
My name is Paul Worth, and I currently live at 19 Wood Avenue. And I lived in San Francisco for about 20 years. I just moved back. I was in New York, but COVID hit, so now I'm living in Madison. My parents have owned here for years, since 1977. And we have an adjacent property to ours that, we love the neighbors, but they passed, they were elderly. And it's fallen down in the hands of the children. And one summer, 4th of July, it's a 3-bedroom house, and there were 25 people in this house. There were probably the first convoy that came in with 2 Suburbans with trailers. They unloaded like 15 bikes. For 5 straight days through the holiday weekend, there were 15 kids riding bikes around the yards. The bikes were strewn all over the place. The noise was just unbelievable. They were going to and from down Willard to the beach, all day long, going to and from the bathroom. And basically for 5 days, this lot had turned into, like a resort. I felt like I was living back in New York, living next to a playground. So basically, I did at the time write a letter to the head of planning and zoning to say, how is this even possible? Given this is a 3-bedroom house, there's in excess of 20 to 25 people on this lot. And my dad's kind of resigned. He doesn't like to get into all these kind of things. And I was just curious how this could happen. And then I put 2 and 2 together, and I knew it was either Airbnb or VRBO. And I think the house rents for somewhere between like $4,000 or $5,000 a week, whatever it is. We looked at the listing on the website. And what they did basically was they defrayed the cost in numbers. And there was just no one to come and say, how could this even be possible? I'm not really complaining about it. I just can't believe there's no way to stop that or protect it. So that's all I have to say. It's not like I'm not complaining or anything like that. It was just one of these instances where I think that Airbnb and VRBO completely created a loophole. It's sort of, it operates in this sort of gray area between commercial and residential zoning. And I'm all for Airbnb. I've used it before. I think it's a great service. But when it's used by, in this fashion, I think it's being abused. So, that's all I have to say. That was just my one experience, and I've been speaking with Linda, and so I just wanted to add what happened to me on the 4th of July weekend of 2019. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes?
So, Ellen Van Reese, I would like to sort of bring up the fact that a 30-day minimum is what we're after as far as rentals go. That's when you can connect with the people who are there, they have a vested interest in the community, they are being more responsible because they're being seen for a much longer period of time. They're not going to be throwing beer cans and walking around and, scratching their big bellies at 8 o'clock and with their can of beer, crossing people's lawns that they think are theirs. It gets out of control. So 30 days is the minimum request, the proposal. And it's why people come to Madison for this intimate connection we have in our community. We know our neighbors and we have that bond with them. We check in on them when they're sick. We have this wonderful, in our corner of the world, we're so blessed. It's a wonderful, sort of rare thing. And this is what people come to our neighborhood for. And we're going to lose that. When there's more and more Airbnbs and more flipping of houses and high intensity rentals, people are going to leave. And it's just going to be a big sort of free for all in a rental town, basically, which I can't really compare it to any other places, but I'm sure there's good examples. Anyway, that's what we wish for. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, just let me see if there's any other public comment on this topic, is anybody else, okay, yeah, we want to make sure everybody has the first chance to get public comment.
I wasn't aware of the short-term rental issue until I was walking my dog and I met a neighbor. And again, that's the community we live in. We talk to each other. And the neighbor, Paula Perry, said that she had an instance in 2019 where her doorbell rang at midnight, and it was someone who was visiting an Airbnb house, but showed up at her house. It was the wrong address. And she went into all the issues, and I thought, she said she brought it to the town in 2019, and it really wasn't until it was right next door to us that we became aware of how detrimental it is to lose a neighbor. Our neighbor sold to an investor, and then we have a rotating group. And as Paul said, it's usually many groups bringing down high weekly rentals, dividing, the cost by bedrooms, many couples, many cars, a lot of things. I don't think they add to the community, but, when we started going around petitioning, I sat with a lot of people, and everyone had, stories of trespassing, confrontation, polluting, smoking, using mooring, sitting on lawn furniture. So all the people that signed the petition, I spent quite a bit of time because we all went around gathering a lot of stories out there, but that's also part of the quaint nature of the community. So we're hoping that we can, work with you all who are working for us and, come up with something that's reasonable and hopefully go back to what it was with the 30-day rental. So people that need to offset, their high taxes by the water, they want to rent, July, August, and command a high monthly rent, but it's not inflicting a lot of transients on the neighbors.
Thank you very much. Any public comment, Lauren, from at-home viewers?
There is one public member with their hand raised. Nancy, you're going to have to go ahead and unmute yourself, and then you can give your public comment.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Thank you. I'd like to talk in general about renting, even beyond the issue of just very short term. I for many years had been in East Hampton, I live now with my partner in Madison. And it really affects the quality of life with group homes that are not controlled. In East Hampton regulation, New York, we're passed relating to the size of the house, the number of people that could be there, even within the short-term rental regulations. And we are on Middle Beach Road. And last summer, the house that Laura was talking about, when it was Airbnb'd, the traffic there was quite something. The people were coming and going. And this is the part of Middle Beach Road, which in general is unsafe because there's so much two-way traffic going in each direction. People are jogging, people are walking, people are biking, and having all those cars kind of coming and going, I thought was quite dangerous, particularly in an area where people had young children that were going to the main beach. And so it's a whole general quality of life issue, as the panelists before me mentioned. And it really changes the neighborhood and it changes the town. And I guess if you want to appeal to the broader community, it depresses property values. So that may be something for the people who don't live near the beach might care about, but it's really a function of quality of life and why we're all here.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your comment. Any other hands raised? I know there was a comment just asking about the board of selectmen. We'll be addressing this topic again. Like I said, it had been tabled last fall for other priorities, but we will be addressing it again. Any other public comment?
Can I just qualify my comment?
Yeah.
So the owner of this house, we're on very good terms with it. We've known them forever. They were blindsided by it. They didn't purposely put 20 plus people in this property. It was the fact that they don't live here. They live in the south now, full time. So basically, however Airbnb works, they were able to pull their money together. One person took the rental, and then 20 plus showed up. So I don't hold them responsible for that at all. I actually blame the app itself, because they have very little oversight, and there's just, that may be a specific and rare case. I don't know if that's happening all over the town, but it has happened, so that is something that I think is kind of curious, and worth looking into and possibly regulating if that continues to be the trend. That's all. Thank you.
If I could just, sorry, make one more comment. In Exhibit A to our petition, we set forth, this is just an illustrative, it's not at all comprehensive. Other towns and cities who have enacted regulations and ordinances to control this for precisely the reasons that we all are stating here tonight, where they have banned short-term rentals, which is rentals for less than 30 days, and where they also have made residency requirements in certain instances. So towns and cities all over the country, in Connecticut and all over the country, are grappling with this issue and trying to preserve the quality of life for the permanent residents of their towns.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment on other issues? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. And as I said, we'll be this will be a topic that we will be continuing. So with that, I guess we'll just move on to our next order of business, if that's okay. Item number 6.
Okay, thank you for
Thank
hearing
you.
our.
Oh, yes, no problem. So, yeah, bye-bye.
The rule is when you make a comment, you have to stay.
This is going on at home, right?
Section is here.
I know, Joe,
There you
Yes.
go. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks. All right, item number 6, a very exciting topic, the fireman's pension. I just want to welcome members of the North Madison and your Madison Hills, right? That's okay. That just was like going to break up. But these gentlemen came to me, I guess over the summer, to talk a little bit about the status of the pension plan. And frankly, how it really had not been updated in decades, I think it was, when we had the conversation.
Yes.
And so I don't know how familiar board members are with what the benefit currently is, or the structure of the current retirement pension plan. Well, it's very, and maybe we can have our advisors just walk through it briefly, but I think some of the things that, one of the things I'll highlight is the benefit was fixed back in the 1990s and has not changed. So there's no full adjustment, there's been no adjustments to it since the 1990s. I think there was a number of structural things to it that we thought needed to be improved. One of the things that I think volunteer fire companies nowadays are struggling with are attracting and retaining volunteers. It's just becoming more challenging. And we've been fortunate because our two fire companies have been able to do that pretty successfully. They have really good membership, but they want to be forward-thinking and continue to maintain some attractive benefits that they can offer to their volunteers. And that's not why volunteers do this, as we know, but it is something that it's a way of the town recognizing the value that they created for the town and the use of dedicated service to the town. And so with that, we started looking at, they came in with one proposal, and we've had a bit of a back and forth over the last 6 months. And so I think what we came up with was a revision to the plan, and this went through the pension committee. That would, obviously, there would be an impact on the town and a cost associated with it. And so I would like to invite Stacy and then also Elena Pelletieri, who is here from our pension advisory firm, to talk a little bit about the proposal that would be made, what the changes would be. And then really, we're not going to get into a lot of depth tonight. This is kind of a primer, and we're going to kind of continue to work a little bit more refinement before we come back with a final thing. Because anything we do, the board of selectmen would vote on, and then it would have to go to town meeting and be voted on by town meeting. Any changes to our pension. So with that, I will turn it over to Stacy and Elena. If you want to, they're at home, our home guests. And maybe if you could just talk a little bit about, what the changes might be, what we've talked about, and then Stacy has some ideas about how we can kind of soften the impact on the town budget, maybe over the next couple of years.
Yes, thank you, Peggy. I'm going to actually turn it over to Elena. She's done all the work. We went back and forth, as you said, multiple times, trying to find some kind of compromise and making everybody happy. So she does have some information to share. And then as far as the impact to the town, we can talk about that later. So if it's okay, Elena, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Elena Pelletier. I'm one of your actuaries at Milliman. So just to give you some background on the current benefits that the members of the fire plan receive currently, as Peggy said, it's a flat dollar benefit. So it's an annuity that they receive, and there's a different value depending on whether someone retires at age 60 or age 65. And if somebody retires at age 60, they receive $250 a month for their lifetime. And if they retire at age 65, they receive $416 a month for their lifetime, which works out to $5,000 a year. And then the lower amount works out to $3,000 a year. And there's also what we call a vesting component. So depending on how many years of service they have with the town of Madison, they either receive that whole amount that I just mentioned. If they've been at the town for 20 years, they receive that whole amount. And if it's in service is less than 20 years, then that amount gets a percentage applied to it, a factor less than 1. But they have to be at the town for at least either 15 or 12 years, depending on which company they work with, to receive that benefit, to have any vesting percent. So that's the basics of what the pension provides.
Just to be clear, so it differs by company though, so they're not consistent?
Just the vesting percent portion of it. So what happens if you have less than 20 years of service, and what vesting percentage gets applied at what amount of service? There's a slight variation between the two companies, yes. So it's a pretty straightforward formula. That's pretty much the essence of it. I don't know if you have any questions or want me to go into more detail.
mean, I think the one thing we did in this exercise is we tried to see what other communities do in the state, and so that's part of the discussion. I think the conclusion was we wanted something structured somewhat similar to what we've done before, because systematic changes would have had a lot of impact in terms of how you implement this. So some of the suggested changes are sticking with more of the traditional structure rather than moving to what some other communities are, correct?
Sure, I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, but I think you.
Sorry, I forgot. I've got to project that way.
Yeah.
I was just saying that part of the exercise over the last 6 months was we did look at what other communities offer for their volunteer fire or pension plans, and did some comparison analysis and shared that, with the pension committee, and so that weighed into this. But we kind of opted to keep something more similar to what we already have than make dramatic changes to the plan itself.
Correct. Yes. I mean, there's many different pension designs and there's no one right answer. Some may be better than others. And it sounded like what the town wanted to do was stick with something similar to what you currently have and just perhaps tweak that dollar amount.
I just wanted to make sure, I understand that the benefit amount has not been adjusted in more than 30 years. Is that correct?
Not that I know of. I don't have that complete history, but in the time that I've been working on the plan, the benefit amount has not changed.
Never been adjusted.
Thank you.
So
For many years, it has not been adjusted.
Are we talking tonight just about the general need to make a change, or are we talking about specifics, like what are we proposing to change to?
Well, we do have a proposal. I mean, I think when we put this, we weren't sure if we were gonna get into that. I mean, I think Elena can talk conceptually right now, and then we'll have another meeting with more details and schedule and stuff. So, but I wanted to raise this, because it will have, it will have an impact, and we will ultimately have to do this. So it's kind of a discussion.
So, given that there's a need, there's been several months spent researching it, it sounds like you're actually on the verge of having something. Could we start to set a timeline for ourselves, and maybe a deadline, because putting this to bed, because this doesn't feel like a really heavy lift. I'm gonna climb out on a limb and say that there's probably no selectmen that are against this conceptually. So I think the quicker we can bring it to town meeting and put this behind us, the better. I would be all in favor of that. So I would certainly be in favor of seeing this up for discussion and possible action in the next meeting, so that we can get that town meeting clock started. And if we could get all that information beforehand, so that we came into that meeting well educated on the thing, maybe we could get it done. If it turns out it's more complicated than we have questions, we can always.
Well, maybe it's worth Elena just talking conceptually about what the pension committee had endorsed, right? And then you have a framework, and then the next meeting will be like the whole. Is that helpful? But Elena, could you just give an overview of what the changes would be that the pension committee recommended?
Sure.
And if I can, Yelena, we spent many months going back and forth, as far as the requested changes and what we think we could afford. So we did run many scenarios, and I think we landed on this scenario. And before we start talking about the funding, for the future, I think it would be very helpful for Yelena to share her final calculation that we all think is fair. And then we can talk about at our next meeting on how we're going to absorb the impact.
And may I just ask that we could have that ahead of time with what exists now in the program that you went over today pretty well, but also what you're proposing. And I'm glad to see you're looking at the long-term liability, because obviously we have to consider that. So thank you both for doing all that work, but I'd like to see it. If we're going to vote at another meeting, I'd like to see it ahead of time.
Sure. So Peggy, would you like me to describe the proposal?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we just walk through. I mean, I know you have a summary, and then, like I said, there'll be a bigger discussion about how we would manage that. Stacey has some creative ideas.
Okay.
But if you want to do that, that's fine.
Sure. So the proposal is to essentially double those flat dollar benefit amounts over a 10-year period. So the 5,000 amount would go up to 10,000 and the 3,000 a year annuity would go up to $6,000. But it would take 10 years from the initial date that this was implemented to gradually increase to those amounts.
So Yelena, would you mind sharing your
The
spreadsheet or
numbers?
your?
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if you guys were ready for
Yep.
that, but sounds like you are. So I will share that.
We love a big spreadsheet.
Yes, get ready for some numbers. Okay. Can you see that?
Ish,
Sort of?
it's pretty small.
Okay, let me see if I can make that bigger for you. I'm sorry, the way I'm sharing it, I'm not able to. Hold on one second. If I stop sharing, I might be able to make it bigger.
That's a question if, for Stacy, while Elena gets that, is this retroactive at all?
No. This
No,
was-
this is just going forward, really. So some of the retirees in 2 years will see 2 years benefit of it, not the full, where we're gonna be in the 10 years, the phase out, the phase in.
Actually, Noreen, we did run a scenario of just doing future retirees, and then we went back because the firemen actually asked for us to do that. So it would include current retirees and adjusting their benefit going forward, correct, Elena?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So it would impact current and future retirees. And
But
at
no
the end-
retro
right,
for
so
the
somebody who
current, yep, okay.
someone who
So-
is in payment now, their benefit would just start increasing whenever this became effective. It wouldn't go back to the past years that they've already been collecting a benefit.
Okay, thank you.
So the top section kind of in shorthand describes the change itself, which we just went over. And when we get to all the numbers, what this is showing is a projection of what would the town's actuarially determined contribution to the plan look like if this change was not made. So if the plan remained as is, that's the first column. So these are the contributions that we project. And it's important to note that, we assume that all of our assumptions hold true. The investments return the rate that we assume. So, this is certainly not a crystal ball, but it's a baseline scenario. And then if holding all those assumptions the same, but now if we made the change that we just discussed, this is what the actuarially determined contribution would look like. So that's the middle column. And then the last
How did
column,
that last row fall off the cliff? So it looks like it goes down in the middle column to 70, from 317 to 70.
yes, so there's two main pieces, two components to the contribution. One is a payment towards any accrued liability that's already been accrued for past service, and any difference between that and the plan's assets. So the unfunded liability, you're paying that off over time. And then the second piece is a payment towards the benefits that are just being accrued during the year. So by the time you get to the end of the projection period, the plan is close to 100% funded. So that unfunded payment falls off significantly.
Would a significant upfront infusion of cash impact this table?
It would. In this scenario, we did not assume any additional upfront contributions. We've assumed that the town just contributes this amount, the actuarially determined contribution every year. So to the extent that there was an additional contribution, the unfunded portion would be smaller, and therefore the payment of it would also be smaller.
But to that point, the upfunded contribution would need to be a significant amount, Elena, correct?
Correct. So what we're showing here is you're increasing everyone's benefit. You're essentially almost doubling the liability for all of the plan members, somewhat less than doubling because you are doing it over a 10-year period. So, and then you're paying off that increase over time. So you can see, every year there's close to a $200,000 increase. So if you wanted to essentially prepay all that, you would be paying that whole increase up front. And I think me and Stacy looked at those numbers and it was close to 1.5 million. If you wanted to right off the bat, keep the contribution close to level. If you wanted to have the contribution with the change be close to what it would have been without the change, just to clarify.
And just to clarify, in the last column, those are not year-over-year increases in contribution. That's the annual contribution for that year.
The last column is the difference between the first two columns. So that year, the increase in that year's contribution. So in the first year.
Go ahead.
So in the first year, the contribution would be 152,000 bigger than it would have been without the change. In the second year, it'd be 168,000 bigger, and so on. So it would go from 60 to 228 in that year, for example.
Is the general concept of a phased-in increase, is that acceptable to those two companies? Okay, that's good. I would love to see then a couple of scenarios with like a $250,000 upfront, a $500,000, or $750,000, just to get a sense of what that does to our additional.
Sure.
We did some of that. I think we have it back into how much it was marginal, the difference, I think, unless you put in a $1,000,000. We did look at this. We did a scenario, I can't remember, we ran several scenarios when we were doing this, trying to figure out if we do a package. And Stacy actually, this will be the conversation back next time, has kind of a recommendation about how to handle it, I think, using this method. So, what we could do, I can't remember what we ran, Yelena, with the, infusion, cash infusion.
I believe the scenario we looked at where we had a budget that we were trying to back into was a slightly different scenario. So we hadn't done exactly what the board member requested, but it's something that we could easily do.
I think what we did is we said, okay, how about if it was a we thought it was reasonable to have a $75,000 back into what the number was. And that number was over $1 million. But we'll go back and look at it.
So where I'm at, I mean, it's easy to look at the last column and go, oh no, it's $200,000. It's that. But I think the proper way to look at it is in the more global sense that Madison benefits greatly from this private-public relationship, and the cost avoidance for us to continue to support the two fire companies is, trust me, dwarfs those numbers immeasurably. So it seems like a relatively small token and a relatively small sacrifice of the taxpayers to do this. So I understand that we need to take a look at it in the context of how it impacts our budget, but I think there's another side to the equation that we need to be looking at when we do the value assessment on that. So that's my 2 cents, and I think this is something we can get done quickly if we just keep our foot on the gas and get it taken care of.
You keep changing scenario.
But we've got a record amount of cash sitting in our excess fund balance.
Well, but that's a separate conversation from the plan, right?
And that's up to the board of finance, right?
Exactly.
It's absolutely up to the board of
Right.
finance to figure out how to spend that money.
And it would be a worthy thing to do. I think this is, are we good with this concept? I think we come back, we can have it and discuss and take action, go back up data sets. So this would be the structure, and then we can figure out how to mitigate the impact, whether it's some special appropriations or some other thing.
So is this that we're seeing here, this recommended solution, this is what came through the pension committee? Yes. The pension committee is basically coming to us saying this is the recommended solution. Yes. And did we potentially consider use of any ARPA funds as the way to pay it down?
You specifically,
Yeah,
you
you
mentioned
can't.
it.
We'd love to.
Yeah. And it doesn't impact this year's budget, the one that we just passed, so this would come into effect for the 2023.
Oh, wow.
So we have time to look at, alternate ways to soften the blow on the budget if we're concerned about that. Maybe two boards decide they we're not concerned about it and we don't even address it, but we can run those scenarios and figure that out. But the worst case is this is what we would be seeing in the 23-24 budget. Committing to for all reasons.
I think it's clear to all of us that it hasn't been adjusted in 30 plus years, that it's well overdue.
May I just add, I know we're all in favor of doing something here. I just want to say, I don't want to rush into a vote in 2 weeks unless we know we have this ready. If they've come up with a plan, it's great. We just have to make sure now, as far as paying for it, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we've done the right things here today, or when we do vote. And I think one of the things Stacy mentioned is looking at fluctuations with the budgets over the years. What can we do to avoid that? And there's a lot of things, and I know sounds like they looked at all of them, but I don't want to feel like we're under the gun to vote in 2 weeks unless we really feel that we're all comfortable with what the plan is. If we're ready, that's great, but I don't want to be held to that unless we are really comfortable and we've looked at everything.
Maureen, is there any other information that you think we need to bring forward so we can have our discussion?
No, I would just like to know, I mean, they've looked at a lot of the different things, but I'd like to take a look at it with an infusion. What does that do for the town long term? Because if you look at some of these changes, they're $10,000, $20,000 each year, they go up. What can we do with it? And that's with considering market. I don't know what the rate of return is on what's being considered here. But I just think whatever we can do to not make the budget go up and down from year to year with everything, we should take advantage of. So we've got some good information, but it seems like we need more.
Well, but I hear what you're saying, Noreen, but I also feel like the pension committee has gone through this exercise as a committee and is making a recommendation to this body. What I would love to see is the pension committee present back to us what their recommended solution is, and we go from there.
That's
part of what this is.
That's Stacy's job in the Board of Finance.
Okay.
But
I think that Noreen, once again, there's two topics. One is we're comfortable with the recommendations for the changes to the plan. And then the second conversation is a different one that will take time. We wouldn't vote next 2 weeks or the next month on special appropriations. That would be a longer term look at how do we soften the flow of this change to the budgets.
Right.
We could do that now, or we could do that 6 months from now.
Well, I'm not talking about a special appropriation. I totally understand what you're saying, Peggy. They put a plan in front of us, but we still don't have how to pay for what we're going to recommend to the Board of Finance. And I don't think they have come up with a solution either, the pension committee. Are they expected to come up with a plan or a proposal?
I don't think the pension committee would do that. This is a Board of how does the Board of Finance think we should prepare for this additional budget requirement that we're gonna have? Because we're gonna have to contribute more money every year to this pension plan.
Right, so all we have to vote on is whether or not we want to change the plan and to change what the benefit is.
Right.
Figure out how to do it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought we really had a plan. I thought we had a vote on more than that.
So, I mean, and we don't have to go to the next meeting either. We can pull some more information and have another conversation and vote on it at the end of April. I think it'd be nice to target the end of April for a final thing, and then the town meeting would be scheduled for sometime in May.
Sometime before the summer.
Wait, we have to go,
Great.
changes to the pension plan don't go to the Board of Finance, do they? Do they go right to town meeting?
Not to the actual plan.
Okay.
But increases, we should definitely include the Board of Finance.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be voting on the actual plan, but they would be, we would process, so, okay.
Well,
All
if you're just voting on the benefit, Peggy, I didn't realize that. And
Yeah,
I have a question with the benefit changing at all.
yeah, we'll make it more clear when we come back the next meeting, what exactly
Okay.
thoughtful is and the Board of Finance role of the time. This was supposed to be a discussion, to have an initial discussion. So. Okay. All right, great. All right, do you guys have any questions or no? Okay, good. All right, with that, then I guess we'll move on and we'll see this again on the next agenda.
Thank you, Yelena.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Elaine.
No problem.
We're getting there.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Down to the hardcore.
I know. We're only on item 8.
7.
Well, item 7, I don't know if the board saw my email, but we're gonna have to table this because, we are in the process of back and forth on the actual tax fixing agreement, and unfortunately, we haven't gotten to those final words yet. What I will say is likely that we're gonna have to schedule a special meeting to vote on this tax agreement because, we have some deadlines that we have to meet in the purchase and sale agreement for Island Avenue. So I'd like to table this, and then I'll know more tomorrow about the timing, and then I'll reach out to board members. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So, item number 8 is update on beach and recreation preparations for summer 2022 season. Welcome, Austin. Nothing to share for at-home viewers? Possibly, or-
I did not send it.
Okay. Okay,
You can post it. So great day to be talking about upcoming beach season. We had snow earlier today, so right on schedule. So hiring is underway. So we are hiring beach lifeguards, gate guards, facility monitors, all the above. So if anyone who's listening is looking for a job this summer, taking applications. Currently, we have a lot of returning staff, which is great, and some new folks as well. And it's good to have that continuity. So the returning staff eventually graduates from working at the surf club and goes on to real world jobs as they get older. And then we backfill with the new folks and keep that cycle going. So there's more elder statesmen in the positions that require that. So just some dates to go over. So Saturday, May 28th, beach stickers will be required at all beaches on weekends, so that's Memorial Day weekend. The last day of school is June 17th, which is Friday. So Monday, June 20th, beach stickers will be required 7 days a week at that point. As we did last year, Surf and East will be gate guarded from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and West Wharf will have gate guards until 8 p.m. That's important due to the limited number of spaces at West Wharf. Worked great. Yeah, so it worked really well. I think the whole beach season itself worked really well last year. We didn't receive many complaints through the Selectmen's office or my office about the way the beach passes were held. So.
Can I ask you, I know that in time, sometimes you staff West Fork earlier.
If we can. Yeah, so that's the case every year. So if we can get college kids to come back that are available, then yes.
Okay. Because that's usually a particularly tight area.
100%. Yeah, any day. So a couple Fridays ago when it was like 70, remember that? Surf Club was absolutely packed. Everybody's looking for that nice day to get out. Now we're back to Sunday. So Memorial Day weekend is May 28th, 29th, and 30th. And the events for July 4th, we'll run them the same way we did last year. So no pass sales will take place after Friday, July 1st at noon for the remainder of the holiday season. So last year on Friday of July 4th weekend, we kindly used the Chamber of Commerce building to sell beach passes at. So to take all the beach pass stress away from the park,
all the sales that day were sold at Chamber of Commerce building. Worked really well, got people go downtown as well, and just took any clogging of the parking away from Surf Club at that time. The concert on the Green is Saturday, July 2nd, and fireworks are July 3rd, and we will run those again, so that's always the busiest day of the weekend. And we'll run that the same way we did last year with a staff member at the corner of West Wharf and Surf Club Road. So no one will be allowed to go down Surf Club Road unless they have a beach trip.
Or they.
Yeah, or a day pass, any kind of pass that's available for that day. Again, we don't want any bottlenecking, clogging of Surf Club Road, people pulling into the turnaround to buy tags. So if they don't have a sticker, day pass, they can continue on down Middle Beach or turn around and head back.
And they can park though at the commuter lots, and just the shuttle service.
So it's the beach stickers are parking passes. So you can walk in, get dropped off, all the above. But you'd have to be required to have a sticker to get down or a tag to get down Circle Road on that particular day.
But we're gonna do the buses though. I know that was kind of an issue last year with getting drivers.
Through the school bus organization, we can approach them with that again.
Yeah, it's normally we would offer them
For
the
the
train
fireworks,
station and for the fireworks, yeah, okay.
That's just at night for the fireworks, not during the day for all. The parade is Monday, July 4th. And then at the end of the summer, Labor Day is Monday, September 5th. So we will get there. And at the bottom of this page, and I will share it so we can post it, was the Beach Pass sales for 2021. So as you can see, the big blue section, for those of you who have it in front of you, is the adult first car. So we sold 2,292 adult first cars and 1,983 senior first cars. And break down from there. Last year we sold 791 non-resident daily tags.
The other thing I'll just comment on is the Manhasset, running that new Manhasset shuttle that was piloted last year. It's probably only going to be weekends this year. We're going to advertise more, so that will hopefully help. And I actually have a call scheduled in April to catch up on all this with Deep as well as Escrow Transit Systems. We have on the schedule. So we can start promoting that, so that will help. Hopefully get used more. It wasn't used a lot last year, but it also wasn't promoted. It was kind of a last minute thing. But they will be offering that again this summer. The other thing I want to mention is that Austin's department will be relocating permanently to the Surf Club until Academy opens up. So I think knowing the space considerations that we have here in Town Hall and the fact that during the peak season, most of the staff is at Surf Club all the time. We looked at repurposing, there's a community space in the back of the Surf Club, and that's gonna be actually their offices for all of the employees. Not seniors will stay at the senior center. We made some improvements there. We're fortunate that the town also had to make a technology investment last year because of issues with the phone lines for all our programming at the Surf Club. And so now this allows their office to be hooked up to the town network officially, which they never really were. It was really kind of duct taped situation down there with accessing anything to the town and the phone system.
Hit or miss internet and phones for staff.
Hey, when will that change take place, and where should the public go when they want to physically buy it?
So it's all gonna be at the Surf Clubs. I think he's moving April 15th, is that the official date? So we're gonna make an announcement about that, so no one will come to Town Hall anymore for that office space, and then we're making some other changes with different departments to repurpose that office space, and shuffle some things around to address a lot of the things that were in the facilities study that we had last year. And then a lot of the changes, we're buying some new furniture for Austin, all that can be moved to Academy when this office suite is included in Academy. But they need some, put some new carpeting and paint down there, have a great view. I'd love to move the selectmen's office maybe down to the surf. But they spend so much time there anyways, and we'll all be together, especially during peak season. So I think we're pretty excited about it.
Yes, it'll be important to have, full-time staff leadership at our biggest park in town, where we supervise our summer staff. The summer camp is located down there, to be accessible to the public during while they're at the beaches. And get a cheaper. Use the great concession stand. And, it's important. Most of the beach pass sales last year took place at Surf Club anyway. And so people are doing that, purchasing at Surf Club and purchasing online. The majority of all the passes are sold out. So there shouldn't be any hardship on residents who typically come here because kind of just go to the beach where they're going to be anyway and can interact with us down there.
I think we talked about too, there's a concern for seniors and access that why seniors can purchase the passes. It's a little tough to get, everyone up into the surf club, but I think it'll be a nice change, and it allows us to make some decisions which we had originally been thinking about for Academy, if Academy would have it, but this kind of moves that forward a little bit, so we can solve some problems here. And then there'll be a nice space down there, for other purposes, because I think that room is used for some of the programming during summer camps at times, right?
Many years ago, we had like a preschool program in that room. And then it was an area for summer camp to do. Summer camp now uses the field houses, tent area, strong field during the day. There's many spaces for them to access.
Is the current surf club buildings officially winterized?
Yes, sir.
May I ask a question? I can't hear everybody, but Austin, as of now, seniors can get their passes at the senior center, no matter where you are, right?
So seniors can purchase their passes, not yet at the senior center, but we'll allow that. They can purchase them online, they can call and do it. So anyone who purchased the pass last year can renew them online. So this is
and a family or a person who does not get a beach pass, how would they, if they wanted to sign up for programs, will they still be allowed into the beach to go into your offices there?
Yes. Yes, so we'll use the turnaround area for folks that come in, that want to come into Beach and Rec. Temporary parking. Yeah.
And my last question, will the town gym still be monitored and it'll be open and there'll be somebody there during the day?
Yes. Yep, none of that will change.
Now, is there any technology in the gym as far as ever using that for any kind of cross registration or anything?
So they have a computer in the gym that people swipe into to use their card, their rec pass in the gym. Can't register for anything down there.
Is the rec pass includes a beach pass, correct?
No, they're separate.
Oh, it does. That's separate. Okay. Is there a super pass that's everything?
There's no super pass, no.
Okay.
No.
All right.
I think we need a super
So,
pass.
well, one of the things, and I know Rob Park was here earlier, he must have, is, we had some conversations last year about looking at new systems, and I think the commission decided status quo this year. But I do think, Bruce and I had a lot of conversations about this, is trying to create a town pass. And I think we need to, because I think it also would simplify a lot of the issues we might have with resident versus non-resident, all this other stuff. So I think we're all committed this year, and I know I am, to really take a really hard look at looking at, I know the idea was through, the tax bill or whatever, everybody getting a town pass, trying to simplify this whole process. And I think we want to really spend some time doing that this year. We've got some bandwidth, I think, more this year to do that. And rethink, the beach pass system. And it may be that we, don't make any changes, but I think there's this, all the things you're raising, the gym, the other issues we're dealing with, like our, disposal facility, the waste transfer station. And, should we have a town sticker so people can go and use that facility? So we're having a lot of conversations about that. There might be some benefits to having just a town sticker. So that'll be to come, but this year will be status quo. And I know they recommended keeping the rates and everything the same, and I think we're already we've already sold a lot of
Sold
beach.
a ton of beach passes already, people are jumping at the
Sticking outside.
One in my car today.
Yeah. Nice. Just one quick question. I'm curious. I remember the summer baseball being a little bit of a challenge during beach pass season, with people coming in and saying, "I'm just here for my kid's game," and then scanning over and spending the day at the beach type of thing. Are we still seeing any issues with summer sports?
So
Not just baseball,
sports teams, when they pull in, if they're here for a game and don't have a pass, so Madison resident doesn't have a beach pass, but is here for their son or daughter's game, we give them a sports pass, and put it on their
You just have one at the gate, so it's just in the gate.
Yep, and then as my staff walks around the parking lots during the day, once the games are over, if you still have that on, you need to come. Okay.
You think
Or you
we,
folks have a beach pass, which
Yeah.
really not.
Yeah, good.
there used to be one pass you could get. I really remember this years ago. It was everything. It was beach and it was the gym and, sort of family pass. I don't know why why we changed, but I do remember them having that for a while.
You're right, Noreen. It was called the rec pass 10 years ago when I was here. That was something that was, you're right, it was a gym pass and beach pass combo. You had a card, not a sticker.
Right. When we had I was head of Beach and Rec years ago and the commission, and we had the ticket that people talk about with the 20 guests on it. The year I left the Beach and Rec and went to the Board of Selectmen, they changed. Do you know that one year, the first year they changed, it was a $40,000 loss in revenue to go from the individual cards to the car what we have now, the car stickers, was $40,000 change. And it was in the wrong direction, unfortunately.
Austin, how are you making out on the effort to have a sailing program again?
Good question. So I interviewed, we put out the folks to respond to that. I had one gentleman respond, was a former student of the sailing program for Beach and Rec, has moved on and done other things involving sailing, adventure courses, and such. So he's put together a budget, we're reviewing it to make sure that it's sufficient to run the program. And if that all works out, then yes, we will have a sailing program this year. I've been saying all along that sailing program is different than like a 1-week soccer program. The liability and necessity for the right individual to run this is higher than any other program that we've run. So making sure we have the right person is the most important to me. And if we don't have the right person, I think not doing it is better than doing it with someone who's not going to do it safely and correctly. But after interviewing this individual and seeing how passionate he is about it, I think we're on the right path.
Different topic. In the near future, Ryerson is going to become a field. If the town were to set aside space for pickleball, would it get used?
If we put pickleball courts anywhere in town, there's no end to the population of it.
We're finding there's going to be a lot of requests for that space.
So if anyone's listening to go off on another tangent, but the town campus tennis courts need repair. We've gotten 2 quotes, chosen the vendor, and as soon as the weather turns,
When it stops snowing.
when it stops snowing, it's above 19 degrees, the repairs will be made, and that will get us through till the time when we can have an CIP with a full budget to do the major repairs.
Was there discussion of lights at one point that we were put on top?
So in the CIP, that was what I thought, yeah.
All right, well, good, I know it's getting late, so, but thank you for the update.
Yeah, thanks, Austin.
And this will get posted on the website with the dates of when, because I know people inevitably will get calls.
I texted.
Those are already,
I sent it to
Yeah.
one already.
Yeah, no, but just, they'll get a call on Wednesday, the first week of June. Why isn't the beach, why aren't there lifeguards on the beach today? We don't, and during the week, up until June 20th, because we have staffing problems. We use a lot of college students and high schoolers, so they're not available, so fully available till later in the month. So just so the public understands that it's only partial staffing up until what's now June 20th.
and that's really no different than any other year.
It's always been that way, so. Okay, great, all right, well, thank you, Austin, very much. Moving on to item number 9, discuss and take action to approve the hiring of Kevin Johnson to the position of assessment technician 2 located within the assessor's office. The position is non-union, rate of pay is grade 6, step 4, $20.02 per hour. The position is budgeted, not requiring appropriation of funds. This position vacancy was created by resignation.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion, questions? Looks like we can get somebody, it's tough to get people right now, so. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Great, thank you. Item number 10, discuss and take action to approve awarding the contract for the police department locker room flooring installation and painting project to Sullivan and Son Carpet for flooring and to Arthur Conroy LLC for painting. And this is another one, this was part of CIP.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions or not? This is budgeted as part of CIP. So with that, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Great, thank you. Item number 11, discuss and take action to approve line item transfer request for the Public Works Department totaling $15,000.
So moved. Second.
Do we know what this is for?
Yeah, this was for overtime. He's over on his overtime account, and I think he was using funds from, I'll let John talk to it real quickly, from savings from another account, correct, John? You're under budgeted?
I'm sorry, I just was getting added as a panelist and I missed that.
This is related, it's, right, you're over budget on some overtime, and then you're moving funds from another account, you're under budget, correct?
Yes, that's correct. From the wages budget, we have, there's funding in there because we have a truck driver position that, there's funding in there for that position, and we have not hired for that yet. So there is funding to move over from wages into highway overtime.
John, can I ask you in the second part of that, the 3,000 part comes from, you're taking it out of staff travel. What is staff travel usually used for?
Staff travel, in the past, I've used it to go to seminars for the certified floodplain manager certification points that I need.
Okay.
I've been able to do that actually online. So there's funding available.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, item number 12, discuss and take action to approve the charge of the Ad Hoc Academy Community Center Building Committee. And so I will share, I sent out kind of a revision. I know Bruce sent me a couple comments this afternoon. But basically I tried to go back and figure out what we had talked about. And some conversations that I had with Bill Stableford as well. I also, Bill and Alan, I met with Laura Downs, who was very involved in the Stratton Library building committee. And so just got some different ideas and try to incorporate some changes and recommendations into this. So the red line is what I amended from.
I see, well, I see 8 red.
I know, it doesn't show the markup. I didn't do this, I have this computer, so it's, well, you all received the markup?
Yes.
You could see that,
Yeah.
so you have at least the one I sent around.
Yeah.
So I pulled it up here. So, basically, the changes were, tightening some of the language, and Bruce made a comment about quorum, and I hadn't really thought about it. I think I just took that and I looked at something else, so we could just say simple majority, or you want to list the actual numbers.
So it can be either, right? It just, the 60% was a little
Yeah,
confusing
it's
because
like-
of just the
yeah,
math in
yeah,
it. So
exactly,
it's
yeah.
5 out of 9, it's 5 out of 7, 6 out of 9, or it's just a simple majority of those.
I like that.
I would envision simple majority, because they're gonna have a lot of changes, right?
That's fine.
So we'll make it simple majority, and then, I think one of the big changes, is on the next one, but, here, not big changes. So that was pretty much it. I added a little bit, there was a lot of conversation about design, and I think the academy, the building committee can either hire an architect and a designer, or they can hire an architect who has a designer. I think that should be a discussion left for the committee, and as well as an engineer. It wasn't intended in here to say that they also have to pick a designer. I think they have to decide the package how they want to do it. Because I think you might get some architects bidding with specific designers, where you might, maybe they don't like any of the designers the architects are working with, and somebody else on. So, that was one of the changes we made. So, and then I think on the, I didn't make any changes, I don't think, to the, governance itself. We'll make the change, on the forum. And then, that was kind of it. I mean, are there any other thoughts on the building committee itself? If we get that approved at least, and then we can talk about the other.
Peggy,
Yeah.
I have a couple of thoughts, and I apologize for not getting to you earlier. Just because I've been away so long and the way things are done. The first thing under charge is that coordinate with the owner's representative, with the project manager, which has been selected and approved by the Board of Selectmen. Do we interview different groups, or does the town have a sort of a project manager company that they just work with all the time? I mean, how does that work? Are we going to be able to do that, to be able to do those interviews?
Well, we know the building committee will choose their owner's representative, and they will do an RFP for them.
Coordinate with the owners, which has been selected and approved by the Board of Selectmen. So we're going to pick the project.
You know what? This is a mistake, because the, good catch, Mari.
Okay, I just surprised.
Yeah, no, it's a good catch, because the elementary school building committee, because they were in such wanting to get the process moving quickly, we started the RFP for the owner's project manager already.
We selected. For the towns.
The town has started that process, so an RFP has already gone out. We talked about this before, and so we're going to have a selection committee, and then that person will be assigned to the building committee, and then the building committee will work with them to do the architect. I think academy, we have more time, and so the thought was the building committee should run the RFP, which I didn't. I think that's what we need to determine, right? Versus the Board of Selectmen doing the same process.
I sent you a question this morning.
Yeah.
Do we want the building committee of Academy to issue a request for proposal or a request for qualifications?
Yes, yeah, so that is a good catch, Maureen, because this was modeled after the elementary school one, but the intention on this, so we should have an additional thing that the building committee for Academy would be, doing an RFP. So let me,
Maybe RFQ, or I would.
RFQ, RFQ. I copied whatever we did for the other. Okay. So
Okay, the only other thing, Peggy, I had on that is,
yeah,
when you read this, and it's actually for the advisory committee too. I just don't think there's enough emphasis on recreation, community recreation, which really is going to oversee the majority of this bill, or the whole building, but the majority of the programs and everything. And that includes the arts and sports, but it is under recreation. And I think when I read this, I almost thought we were building a cultural center or an arts center, not a community center. So I just think the emphasis on a couple places could be, I'm looking for where I earmarked. Hold on 1 minute. I saw it in both, with both charges. These pages aren't numbered, so I get kind of confused. But when you go and look at, in the first part of this, the sort of the explanation, we have you've got in following the approval, the referendum, blah, blah, blah. And it says into a community center, municipal offices, that's fine. But from then on, when we go into any particulars, it starts right off with a list of individual of the arts, of music, of dance. And then the recreation is like an afterthought.
well, that's in the advisory committee you're talking about, right? Not the building committee? The building committee focuses on qualifications.
What are might be the qualifications I saw?
Yeah. Under membership composition, I mean, we say construction, engineering, architecture, design, performing or cultural arts facilities, recreation facilities, real estate development, finance, or other building committee experience.
Yeah, because when this was presented to us at our first meeting with this new board, when Austin presented it, this was a recreational driven facility with, well, obviously there's a theater there. So there's going to be, theater and arts and dance, all under, it's all part of recreation. But recreation is the head. And I just feel like overall, when I read these pages, I didn't feel that way.
I don't think I agree with you on that point, Marie. I think it's both. It's and, not or.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be
it's recreation, but it's also arts. I think it's both.
Well, with the arts, but as Austin explained it to us that first day when I voted for it, it was the arts was under recreation. He actually said those words. That arts is under recreation. It's just that I think this is a community center. I just think there's just, if you look at it, I think it's emphasizing one more than the other. And I think if that's what if there's some agreement that I'm not aware of, I can be told about it. That's
your point is, you're sort of countering your same point that you're saying arts should be below recreation.
Not below it.
Are you saying that they're supposed to be equal?
No, not below it, Scott, not at all. Part of it. This is a community recreation facility.
I think that, I think when I think of recreation, I'm thinking more sports. So maybe that's.
You think what? You think
sports.
I don't consider a pottery class a recreation class. I consider that an arts class. So I guess maybe that's where
if you work with professional recreation people, they will say that and that's what was presented to us when you presented the proposal back in November.
I think we're just, my point is that it's the semantics perhaps. So when
maybe it's semantics, but you know what, Peggy, what I have learned is when you put a charge in place, words matter. Yeah. When you put a charge in place, because at some point down the road, when you're not sitting in that seat and I'm not sitting in mine, this paper is important, what we're voting on tonight.
But then I think what you need to do is send a markup showing what words you feel need to be changed or added.
Okay. All right.
When I read it, I look at it mentions performing or cultural arts, recreation. It doesn't say sports specifically, because I guess I consider recreation covering sports. But so I think we have got to add some additional language to the beginning of this. And maybe what we can do is take a bunch of, notes here, and then we'll put this on the special meeting agenda that we're gonna have to do.
Okay, that's,
And then we can get it done.
I just think it's better that we're clear. And I do feel, I was chairman of Beach and Rec for 9.5 years. Recreation is way beyond sports. Way beyond sports. It's health. There's a whole health component to it, and there certainly is the arts. And I just think you have to look at it broader than that, and that this is community recreation. And just as there'll be, there's going to be basketball and maybe pickleball. You can do an indoor pickleball and volleyball. All that can be in there. And you can look at that, and they're not listed. They're just assumed. But when it comes to the dancing, the theater, the music, that's all listed. I just feel like there's an emphasis on that doesn't include the whole community.
Maureen, I think these are all super amazing comments, but just if there was a chance we could have gotten them in advance of the meeting, we could be voting on it right now.
And then I started off my comments by saying that.
I think,
Unfortunately, no, I've been ill lately. I'm sorry about that.
yeah, no, I think if you just send some specific amendments to the board, and then I need to add in that was my mistake, the RQRP changes. And Bill, are you the person?
Has it been decided yet who and what, the name of what position is going to manage the scheduling in this building?
I didn't hear that. Can you say that again?
That to me is an operational decision.
Yeah, that's an operational decision.
No, we haven't decided.
Well,
so I think right now we're just talking about the building committee, and then I think we incorporate these amendments, collect them, we'll send around a new draft, and then we could vote on this at the special meeting that we'll be setting up for the tax agreement. Because we gotta get that done before the April 12th. So, okay?
Sounds great.
And that would be the same take for the next item on the agenda. So I guess we table it.
Yeah, we table.
Yeah,
We table.
table it. And this one, I had a little bit more, I expanded the membership composition. Actually, I didn't, because as we started talking, there's just gonna be, this is to me trying to capture all the things that Maureen is talking about, all the different types of groups that want to have input into the facility. And so having 6 members of the public to represent different uses, and so maybe this is what you're referring to under that, and we can be more specific, because you're right, I guess I don't talk about sports or athletic type things or wellness. So, well, I do say health and wellness.
So can
Well,
I,
the word-
I'd like to propose maybe a step back from getting into detail. In the sentence before, so in the first paragraph of the charge, the sentence reads, purpose of the committee, blah, 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 improvements being made to the academy project are aligned with the specialized programming and municipal space needs. I would strike the rest of that sentence and put in consistent with its use as a community center, and then get rid of the specifics. Just
Totally
and
agree.
keep it 50,000 feet.
Raise it up.
Keep it 50,000 feet.
I agree. Totally.
And I think one more thing too with the, this is just a little thing, but I think staff would appreciate it. With the committee, we've got 3, you've got Director of Beach and Rec, Director of Youth Services, Director of Economic Development, or I think you would just add, and the order designate.
Or a designate.
Or is it designate? I just think, that I was talking to Austin today. He had 2 meetings, and he told me how many groups he meets with per month. It's it's when you have a very small department to cover everything.
And then I added the non-voting liaison members from the boards just to have that option for them, so that if they want to feel part of it, they're not voting members of the committee. If they don't have time to attend, but at least they're welcome to attend as a liaison, and then they could be an additional liaison, so Austin doesn't have to report on everything going on all the time.
So as a matter of process, liaisons aside, I think we would do do ourselves a favor by asking the chair of each of these two boards to come to us once a quarter with a status update. It could be, but if we put a standing request, we want you to come to us, 2 slides or
It just
less.
sets the
2 slides or less,
Yeah.
we want an update.
What's the progress, what are the issues?
And if they can't show, they can just write a memo or something, Okay. All right.
Well, Peggy, excuse me, and I again apologize that I didn't get these things to you early, but I really just took a good look at them since last night, and I apologize that I didn't do it before the meeting. But thank you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think we'll do another pass on this, both of these, make some changes, and then we'll be ready, hopefully, to vote on it. Okay? Okay, good. So we got 12 and 13 are tabled, and then number 14 is discuss process for review of applicants for new elementary school and academy related committees. So I just really wanted to we had some housekeeping issues on this, and I wanted to make sure we are in agreement on these committees, because it's a lot, right? So the building committee, sorry. Okay, so is the academy, the application deadline? So the elementary school, we're getting a ton of applicants, which is the good news, but it's going to be a very lengthy process. And so I know that for the elementary school, we've already kind of tagged Bruce and Scott. And then I think the thought was that we should have somebody from the Board of Education help with that selection, and then Bill admin as well. Because there's a lot to do. I would suggest we do it by Zoom. Lauren, we've got what, 20 applications so far?
For just the elementary school?
Yeah. Or some of them might have been academy. So
some of them were both. Some of them didn't differentiate. So yeah, I think there's about 20, but I got 4 more, I think, since last week.
Okay.
Wow, that's great.
So it's great we have all this. I guess a process question though is, does the board want to do a review, or the interviewers want to do a review and maybe, take some of the candidates and say, okay, their qualifications maybe don't rise the level to be on the committee, or do you want to interview everybody? Call it down.
Meaning interview all the candidates for either building committee?
No, so go through, you and I go through their resumes, their applications,
Or the elementary school?
and see how well they align with our skill set goals. And maybe focus on the top. We can sit down and coffee and go through that.
I mean, obviously we would love to interview everybody, but if we know that there are just some candidates are going to have tons of above food experience, who we put in the committee and some may not. I think it's just for you.
Yeah,
So are you comfortable doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think we'll try to do that for the elementary building committee, and then we'll see if academy, if we get an overwhelming response from that as well, we might do that same thing.
And are we picking the chair for this one?
Yes.
I think we've decided we're doing that.
Yes, for all the committees. And then I guess the other thing is on the academy committees, we want to do the building committee first, and then allow people to apply who maybe didn't get to the building committee that might be appropriate for the advisory committee. So we do it sequentially, or do we have parallel paths?
And maybe what we do is when Bruce and I are doing the interviews, the last question we ask is, if we don't select you for this committee, would you be interested in the academy one? Then we know yay or nay, and put it back. I think that makes it easy.
And then we do the advisory
We've
committee
done that
third.
before.
So doing the advisory committee third, though. So
I think the advisory committee can afford to be shortly after,
right.
but not months.
Right.
I agree.
Because they're an input source on the.
Okay. So we'll do more sequential, so that people have an opportunity to,
It makes a lot of sense for you two guys to do all 3 committees, so you're willing to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know where you live now.
Well, because you'll get to know them and
Well, there
some
might
people
be.
you know where to slot them.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. You might, a bunch of the people that don't make it on the elementary building committee, you'll met, and think this is a perfect good person for academy, so you have any invite academy, so you.
So, give Scott and I a chance to collaborate a little bit on a plan, on attack, on this, and we'll get back to it.
Okay, so, and then I guess the other thing is we can set the deadline. You don't need to keep that as long. Okay, all right. And with that, moving on. Motion to, motion to approve a resignation, by Lauren Laporta from the Youth and Family Services Committee.
So moved with our gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude, yeah, I'm on that committee, which is increasing.
Let's do that. Going on probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. All right, all in favor with regret, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Lauren, for your service. And item number 16, I should block the documents here. Get a motion to approve total tax refunds in the amount of $4,883.17.
So,
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then any more citizens' comments? Do we have anybody online? No one's here with us.
No one is raising their hand.
Okay, then I should stop.
move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
All right.
All right, thank you. Great. That doesn't want to-